Welcome. Today on the show, we have Nadine Artemis, who is an author and creator of Living Libations. Nadine, we're so excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
And one of the first questions we love to ask all of our guests is, when is the first time that you felt connected to something on a spiritual level?
I think just, as a kid in the woods, in nature, or just with plants in my hand and digging in the dirt, that kind of engagement.
I love that. And was there ever in one of those moments a time where you realized that maybe there was a God or that the experience was bigger and it was something specific that you can hold on to a memory, or more just like the overall feeling
Yeah,
of
a
being
little
connected?
bit. Well, when I was growing up, we had these little Hallmark books. I don't know, it was just at my cottage. We had this cottage, and Hallmark made cards, but they also had these sweet little books. And one of them was called God is Everywhere. And it would be like, God is in the rocks, in the flowers, in the trees. And so, um, we just had kind of classic, like I went to an Anglican school or whatever. So religion was there. It wasn't too intense. But to me, that was really the first understanding I think I had of quote unquote God or whatever. To me, that the Bibles and all that didn't make sense. It was like, it's in nature, it's in a rock, it's in a tree. So that's where I was like, yeah, I get that.
Mm, I love that. And I think it's so true that for all of us, God has to be experienced. It's like we can intellectualize it and learn about him or spirit or universe, whatever you want to call it, as much as we want. But when we totally have that experience where it feels true for us and connected, then it doesn't really ring true. So I love
And
that
well, it's
you.
one thing that's so fascinating about aromatics and plants. And for example, just specifically, for example, frankincense, it was so adored and anointed and poured because in those ancient worlds, it was a smell that was kind of a both tangible and intangible. The sense of smell, things that are smelled, maybe the most tangible essence is like a smoke, right, or the liquid. And it was really felt that the smells were communications with gods.
I love that.
And
Never heard of that
yeah,
before.
and so the word perfume means parfume, meaning through smoke, through the connection, the communication with the heavens. So it really was smell that was supposed to be this unifier of heaven and earth. So I find that kind of fascinating as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because it goes back to the multisensory experience, which I think is where we have these godlike experiences. And it's that unseen, like you can't really speak about it, but it has to be sensed or it has to be felt in so many different ways.
Totally.
Kind of going into that sense of touch, this is actually one of the reasons why I came to find Living Libations and got so excited about it, was all the oils and how you really educate in your book, and to your clients that the use of oils is the way to cleanse the body and to nourish the tissues of the body. Because as Ayurvedic practitioners, that's something that we've learned and was like totally shifting to us on so many levels. But what even took it a step further for me when I was reading your book, Beauty Renegade, was learning that the difference between using sunscreen and using body oils to sunbathe. And this is something I noticed on my skin. Like I would get blotches on my skin anytime I use sunscreen. And so when I started to use oil, like I didn't even know, just intuitively I was using it, because I was learning about Ayurveda. I would have like the best tan ever. It was even, it was like golden. It like literally almost looked like it was fake. So I would love to hear your reasoning. Like, what is the science behind using oil versus sunscreen when we're in the sun?
Well, I love talking about this, and I have a whole chapter in Renegade Beauty dedicated to our skin's relationship to the sun, because it is so key and it's been so misaligned and misunderstood in these modern times. So there's a lot of good reasons to use oil. There's a lot of good reasons to not use sunscreen. And it's hard to even know where to start. Yeah, so so besides the obvious chemicals in sunscreen, like oxybenzene, which is deemed non-carcinogenic until it's exposed to sunlight. So
There's that. Yeah.
And that's one of the major active ingredients in sunscreen. Now, that's been banned in a lot of countries in the past decade, but it's very prevalent in North American sunscreens, for example. And besides that chemical, even if it was not in a sunscreen, there's a bunch of other chemicals that, you know, really have been shown to be like liver disruptors, endocrine disruptors, maybe causing fertility issues, blah, blah, blah. So let's just put that aside for a minute. The main issue with sunscreen is that it screens out UVB rays. So there's a whole range of rays and wavelengths that we get from those sunbeams that we don't even know everything about yet. But what we do know is that UVB delivers the vitamin D, which is one of the main reasons to be in the sun. And when UVB is isolated from its ultraviolet partner UVA, and it's just UVA, that is a skin damaging sun ray. That's like, you know, the trucker that's got his arm not out the window, but just on that, let's say that window ledge for years. That skin will be more damaged than the other arm because it's been inside the window and the window is filtering out the UVB. So it's just getting UVA, for example. So then we're sitting in the sun for hours a day or whatever, baking in chemicals, not getting vitamin D, and just bringing in the UVA. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with that. You know, not to mention again the chemicals, but so if we're going to be in the sun, we want to reap all the benefits. And so what they've even discovered in the 1920s when they had sun clinics in Switzerland, where, you know, thousands of people came from all over the world to heal things like rickets and flus and tuberculosis and all that kind of stuff. What we know is that we do need, and now we also have modern science with over 3,000 studies showing that we need ample amounts of vitamin D to prevent a whole slew of disease and imbalances in the body. For example, sufficient vitamin D levels will slash your chance of developing breast cancer by 50%, which is more than I think the not drink might slash by about 15%.
Wow.
So it's you know, it's just showing that it's very significant. Or a main cause of juvenile diabetes is lack of D in pregnant mothers. So we can also start to see how things are really connected, because we probably didn't think sitting in the sun was connected to blood sugar, right? There's so many biochemical reactions that happen from being in the sun that our bodies were designed for. So our skin, our bodies, even in areas where the sun doesn't shine, we have thousands of vitamin D receptors, also known as VDRs. And these vitamin D receptors need to be brimming with vitamin D. And if they're not, then these things called bacterial ligands can get into the vitamin D receptors and basically just choke out the whole immune system. So now, back in like those times when they were having the sun clinics in Switzerland, they felt, you know, now they knew that the sun was key, but now we have the modern science showing us like why the sun did help with tuberculosis or Epstein-Barr, because it cleans this, it's a good blood cleaner. It also produces lots of great things like antimicrobial peptides like cathelicidins. It creates a very essential healthy cholesterol sulfate, and even though it's called vitamin D, it's not even really vitamin D. It's a hormonal precursor, and I think of it as like really like a liquid lubrication for the inside of the body, which is contrary to that thinking. I mean, obviously the sun can shrivel and parch things, right? But when it's done in the right amount, our bodies, our skin are literally designed to receive it, and our health is dependent on it. So we want to find ways to integrate sunshine and get sunshine into our lives, because it's a different chemical and it's a different biology when we're receiving vitamin D from the sun, as opposed to taking it in a capsule. It's good that we have that. That's a fat soluble vitamin D, and we need it. And it's good for people that have winters or don't have access to the sun. but we can't live on that alone. And so we want to understand our relationship to the sun.
Yeah, I love all that so much because it also gets down to the root reason of why we are experiencing a lot of these sun damages. Because I know at least the rhetoric for people in my inner circle, they're like, no, sun is bad. Like, you got to be aware, you got to all get your suntan lotion. And it's just like we're missing the mark here. It's like, yes, things are happening with like skin cancer and disease, but you have to get down to the root of it, of why that really is happening in the first place.
Yeah, and the skin cancer and the disease is very serious. And, you know, I go more into it in my book because I can do citations and footnotes and stuff. But the thing is that when we look at the scientific studies, when we look at things from the New England Journal of Medicine or the Cochrane reviews they kind of amalgamate studies and then create a new study. And I'm being very general here, but what we're seeing from the studies are things like the closer you live to the equator, thank you. And the more recreational sun use you have, the less chance you will have a developing melanoma. And that it looks like more the melanoma comes out of things when we're exposed to artificial light. And those studies were actually done before we were in front of a computer screen all day. And then from the Cochrane reviews, what we're seeing is generally the more sunscreen use, the more freckles, the more moles, and the more basal cell carcinoma. So when you actually go into the science, the sunscreen situation is pretty devastating.
Well, and especially just because it feels like when people hear you say that, you sound like a conspiracy theorist, right? They're like, wait, where are you getting this information? It's just super not well known. And obviously you've done a really good job of sharing it and putting it out there in your book. And I think what's interesting is when you're trying to talk about like the right way to do it, like using all of the different factors, like where you live and, you know, how easily you burn, like, how do you find and obviously I think a lot of that is probably intuitive. And like, we see that from Ayurveda, like working with the elements, understanding your own body, like knowing when it's time to get out of the sun. But in this modern day and age, I feel like so many of us are just disconnected from our body wisdom, where we need a little help in figuring out, okay, what is that optimal time, right?
Well, we do need a little bit of help to get back in the intuition of things. And we can also use modern life to help us. So one of my favorite things is using the D-Minder app. So you just pay the little extra $2 so you can have it programmed for yourself. And then it takes in your longitude and latitude, your geography. And then you say how much skin is exposed, if there's how much cloud coverage there was that day or whatever. And then you start it when you have your sun session, and then you end it. It calculates your vitamin D. And so, cool. You know, for example, this year, because we're not going anywhere. Normally we go away in the winter, but when we're in Canada, so February 10th, when the vitamin D returned to the sun's rays, which is right about that time where the sap starts circulating back in the trees and stuff, then so this year I thought, I'll just start at 0. And I'm sure I had something in my body, but I just started at 0. And then I'm just, you know, calculating that through all the way. And now, because it's November, so we start getting vitamin D on October 31st. Then if I have a supplement, or sometimes we'll go to the naturopath and get a vitamin D injection, because that really helps your kidney reserves. Then I put that in the D app. And so I always know my vitamin D levels. And then on the site, on our website and in my books, I talk about like how to wisely interact with the sun, how to start. You got to start slowly. You got to start in the spring, and you've got to build up that melanin layer. And you got to build it up so that, like, you know, I mean, my D definitely carries me to about the end of December. But then like January and then February, I've got to build it back up. So that's, you know, but now I'll just watch that. But you want to be able, especially if you have a time without sunshine, you want to build it up over the summer, because our bodies are like kind of like little solar batteries, and we can keep that energy and retain it in our melanocyte layer. And it takes us through a bit for the leaner winter times.
I love that metaphor. I have like kind of a question about using oils. And so I use oil so frequently, and I find that they kind of get a little bit all over like some clothes or like my sheets, like the little bit of residue. I was wondering if you had any simple solutions for how to get oil out of these garments.
Yeah, I really feel like it's the oil that you're working with. And so jojoba, which is really tridoshic, so it's really great for all creatures. And it really is the most simpatico with our sebum. It doesn't go rancid and it really absorbs into the body. So I use oils a lot too, but I'm just, they don't go, I don't have that issue. But I did notice it earlier on and with different oils, like back in my 20s, which helped me really pick the root of the jojoba.
So are you
But
saying
other than that, yeah, so it's really the oils that you're working with, because the ones that go rancid really easily, they'll get rancid. You know, you can smell it in a massage therapist if they're not using jojoba or something, and then those sheets get washed, and the sheets are clean, and you know they are, but there's a little bit of that rancid oil smell because those oils just go so easily rancid, and that kind of makes them, when they get in the clothing, a little bit worse. Other than that, you know, like borax and baking soda and some orange essential oil and stuff always helps the laundry.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to hear whatever's current for you, what your like some of your daily skin rituals. And when you said like winter bathing, I'm picturing like in your bikini, but near the window in Canada, trying to get your sun, or like what are some of the things that you're doing now?
Well, I would be fully naked and I just open up the doors, and like I actually keep one of our like deck loungers inside. It's like a big bean bag. I'll fold it up and then I'll just pull it out. So when that vitamin D hits again, we'll even do it today. Like today I lied out. I'm not getting vitamin D, but I just love, you know, feeling all that beautiful sunshine in November is really good for us up north. But yeah, so then when it is, I will open up, but I wouldn't lie in front of a window closed, because then I'm just going to be getting UVA. And the cold air surrounding your body while being in the sun, so in those earlier sun times or the early spring, is really good for the body. And you know, the ancient Greeks felt like you got to work outside and work out in the sun, so all the gymnasiums were outside in the original Greek Olympic athlete situation, because they knew that working out in the sun developed better muscles and body tone.
I love that. And what are some of your other rituals as well, even as far as like morning or nighttime routine or anything like that you're loving?
Well, you know, I keep it really simple because I feel like I've kind of created a whole life of sort of beauty and ritual, you know, so I mean, I love having a bath every day. It just really in that, especially, well, I mean, in the winter for sure. In the sun, I'm in the lake and that kind of stuff. But the winter is very much about warm baths with frankincense and magnesium, maybe a bit of iodine in there too. Because, you know, we do absorb transdermally, which obviously can be like kryptonite if we're surrounded by things like lubriderm and whatever else, not fun ingredients. But with the transdermal absorption, I mean, we can get a lot of beautiful things in our body. Like we have a cream called Sundew, which actually has vitamin D in it. And vitamin D is obviously it really absorbs through the skin really well. So there's a lot of ways that we can also deliver really awesome stuff into our bodies. Venice.
Oh yeah. The lovely stylings.
Yes. For sure. Other rituals, well, I'm very much into my, you know, waking up and in the summer, like spring till like end of October, on any sunny day I can, rolling down to the dock and then just being in the sun and swimming and then oiling my body afterwards and letting that oil seep in, then going in the lake again and sunning again and repeating that about 20 times throughout the day.
Oh, wow. I love that. That sounds incredible.
That feels like that's my ultimate like body care moment for me. That's when I feel like, the sun, the water, the oil all together.
And just keeping it so natural. That's something we love. Like obviously Ayurveda is so much working with the elements, and like the more you can get out in them and be immersed in them and connect with them, like the better you feel. And it's like, you don't need a ton of science to tell you that. It's like, go experience it, go for a nature walk and just feel better. And so that ritual I think is incredible, because it's like, remember how simple you can let it be if you have any type of nature around you. And even in cities, you know, parks, lakes, ocean, whatever it is, like it's almost always accessible if you can create that space for yourself. So I think that's really powerful.
In the city, I mean, we lived there about 15 years ago, you know, as we tried to get here, and we just really, I mean, I remember when Ron and I first started like 21 years ago. And I would show up my version of the city. I'm like, here's where we can wild forage this. Here's where we could sneak over a thing in this park and maybe, have an outdoor sleep under the stars overnight. And so you can find it wherever you are. That's for sure.
I'm curious, when you were out here during that time and you were going to all these forests, did you find a lot of herbs that were indigenous to California, kind of discovering it in these wild parks?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was always so great to just see, like, to be hiking in Joshua Tree and then just come, just see like jojoba bushes everywhere.
Oh, wow.
It's so beautiful. And the sense of like the chaparral and the creosote and in this area.
Oh, awesome. I don't know what jojoba, you said they're in tree form?
Yeah, they're like a desert bush. And then the oil's produced in the jojoba bean.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. What's so great though, maybe it's like the Ayurvedic practice of oiling the skin every day. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, exactly.
And tell me more about that. Like, it was also a form of like kind of protection for the immune system in the body, right? Or it is.
Yeah, so we describe it like on the mind, body, soul level. So on the physical level, and especially in a lot of Ayurvedic cleanses, like a panchakarma, they use it for cleansing the body because you're able to detract the toxins from the extremities and bring them to the GI tract. So if you go get Abhyanga, like at Surya Spa or a licensed Ayurvedic practitioner, there's like specific strokes that you do so that you can really start to move these toxins, and especially the lymphatic system. So that's why it's said to do like on a daily basis. And it's more important, like you mentioned in your book, like not using soap on your skin, like that you don't need to do that, all that.
Just bits and bits and
Exactly. And that's why I like Ayurveda for that, because it's like Abhyanga is that form of cleansing that you do on a daily basis. But also it's, it nourishes all 7 tissues of the body. In Ayurveda, there's 7 tissues. So it helps to rebuild them and restore them. And I've even noticed for that, like on a personal level, for my gut and my lower womb area, as far as like getting like my period regular and all that type of stuff, like I noticed that just putting the oil on the skin, like it actually does seep into the organs, and it's seen like leaps and bounds for bringing that nourishment to the womb area. And then kind of on that spiritual soul level, it brings in this act of love and compassion. Like, how often do we really get to touch our bodies and really spend time there of these strokes? And Abhyanga said to be at least for 20 minutes. Like, it was so difficult to do that in the beginning, to just give yourself that time to nourish yourself. So yeah, that's kind of the scope of it, mind, body, soul level.
I love that. That's really cool. What are the 7 tissues?
So the first tissue is the rasa, and that's the lymphatic system of the body. It's like chyle, chyme, and plasma. And so sense. Ayurveda says how we digest food, and basically this is how toxins are formed in the body, is if it's not, of course, it's always with digestion in Ayurveda. So if toxins are accumulated in the digestive tract, if they're not healed there, then they will diversify and go to a different system of the body.
Well, and for sure, they'll come out on the skin, right? I mean, the skin microbiome, to think about it like to take the Ayurveda and then layer a microbiome on top of that, which is what I love when you see the ancient wisdom and then the modern science going, oh yeah, they had something going on there.
Oh my gosh, really every time. It's like science is like second to what the ancient wisdom like already knew, which is funny. But exactly. Rasa is definitely like the skin of the body. It's the first tissue where you're starting to see that disease. And then the second one is Rakta, that's the blood. And then the third is Mamsa, that's muscle. And then the fourth is Ashti, that is the bones of the body. And then it's
Medas.
Oh yes, actually, Then I miss Medas after Mamsa, right? Is the fat tissue of the body. Then it's Ashti, and then it's Shukra.
No, Maja, the nervous system. And then Shukra.
My student teaching me. I was
hard when you're on the spot.
I was Rachel's first Ayurvedic practitioner, but she's teaching
that's
me
so
now.
Fun. I made 8 steps for cleaning the mouth, and I do them all the time. And sometimes in podcasts, I'm like, I can't remember the order. So it came out of my brain.
Yeah.
That's really neat. So it's really like, this kind of 7 main systems in the body, the material that we're made out of.
Yeah, and I like the last one because it's Shukra, and it's basically comes from our reproductive system, but it's also translated to kind of like our ojas, and ojas is like our overall energy and creative energy. So it's like really interesting that like when our creative energy feels depleted, that is actually like the last tissue of the body.
Well, yeah, and that's like, because that's the bonus part. I think reproductive and creativity, right? That's the extra.
Yeah, that's the juice. Actually, kind of going into about the reproductive system, I am curious to hear your perspective on this. So right now we're seeing a lot of women experience a lot of infertility and having to get treatments for it. And it seems to be kind of like an epidemic of it. And I'm curious to see if you've noticed this and what your perspective of why this is occurring.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been sort of seeing it since the 90s, and it's just more and more. I think so many factors. We've got more chemicals and more stuff, but also I feel like there's a wisdom in understanding our body cycles that, I mean, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I don't think we're getting it more. Like, it's getting less and less, because we have doctors now saying things like, use this birth control pill and you won't get your period for a whole year, or maybe you'll just get it once a season. Like, that is so messed up. And I don't even know where to go with all that. But so we don't know what's going on. And then I think we don't even try, because we don't even know, to get to like some semblance of a 28-day cycle before we even try. Or I was just laughing with my dear friend the other day, because she has a daughter now. And I was like, I like to think I'm a part of that, or coming, because my dear friend, I mean, she was like 30, brilliant. Her dad's a doctor. She's got many university degrees. Didn't know about, like, you know, shooting for the target during ovulation. When is ovulation? What does ovulation look like? What does it feel like? What, you know, the mucus from the vagina, the whole thing. So many, we know when we're bleeding, but we don't know about the other parts of our cycle. And that is so key. And then, of course, things like all the things that we use for quote unquote hygiene in that area, which are really messing with the whole biology, with the microbiome. Some infertility issues are literally just like a uterine and vaginal microbiome issue. So, I mean, there's so much going on, but for sure, there's like an honoring and understanding and a wisdom that we do not have around our reproductive cycles to begin with. And then I feel like we're layering stuff on top of that. You know, even most lubrication is affecting negatively sperm motility. KY jelly, when we look under the microscope of its use in the vagina, we see that it sloughs off cells prematurely. Cells are there's temporary moisture, but the cells through osmolarity release their water and they become shriveled up. And when these cells are examined under a microscope, they literally look like shriveled raisins. And that is the daily habits of our, you know, sex routines and hygiene routines that are really messing with our fertility. So you want to kind of, like I talk about, whether it's that area or the oral microbiome or the skin's microbiome. In Renegade Beauty, I go through stop, seal, and seed. So in a few areas where we've got to re-nourish and re-get a grip and allow the microbiome to rebalance and repopulate an area. And so, you know, for the yoni, for the reproductive area, and again, it could be deeper and it could be hormonal and it could be the guy, but you know, you want to at least attend to this very low hanging fruit first. And, you know, like, just like men have to wear certain underwears to help the whole environment for their testicles. Well, women, you know, our yonis rebel at polyester underwear. We can't breathe in there. And it's not helping our microbiomes. And the dioxin bleached cotton out of control with chemicals, tampons. We don't want to shove them up into the apex of our being where the skin is one cell thin. And then like a straw, we're drinking that into our blood system. You know, or all the gels and douching and all that stuff has got to go. So that's like kind of stopping some stuff. And then sealing, so, you know, using natural lubricants, coconut oil. We make some love butters, but you could just use pretty much olive oil and coconut oil. You'd be a million times better off. And those sperm will be swimming happy. And mustard seed oil, which I'm sure is a part of the Ayurvedic repertoire, actually improves sperm motility.
Oh, wow.
So,
I didn't actually hear that about mustard seed oil. That's so interesting.
yeah, it's a really neat thing. Yeah, so I mean, and then so resealing, and then just like not using all those chemicals down there, and then reseeding. So prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics, like things like butyrate in the diet, just help the whole microbiome. And just looking at those kind of practices, and then you can really rebalance that area, and it will turn around quite quickly. And it may help to lead to those things. It may not be the ticket, but at least you've eliminated a whole area, and a whole area that actually isn't going to be examined in those once if you're in a more expensive route. At that stage, none of that micro stuff is looked at as much.
Yeah, thank you for laying out that process. It's so clear and tangible, because it's true. It's just like in Ayurveda, how we eliminate disease. You have to first remove what's actually causing it.
Yeah.
And it seems like pretty obvious, but we don't know with all these things that we're told that are good for us. But something that I learned in your book was switching from spandex underwear to cotton underwear, and it's helped so much with that. I've noticed as well. And yeah, I love that you gave that example of just like, how can you bring more nourishment and more of that juice rather than like drying out everything, and cleaning everything out all the time is so important.
Yeah. And we can't rebalance after those harsh chemicals on and around the yoni.
I also think it's interesting how I don't want to use the word taboo, but like women just don't talk about these things. Like it's just not something we share. And if it's not being shared, then how can we learn, right? We think, oh, like our bodies, our period, like it's not something that we talk about or want to have conversations around. But if we just did more of that, and like even conversations like this, and allowing people to listen, like how much progress could be made. So it's powerful to me that women are now starting to speak, especially in places like social media where they're going to be seen, but they're unafraid now. They're like, no, let's talk about these things, because there are challenges and things that need to be addressed. And like people are being bold enough to do it, which I think is awesome.
Well, it's good too, where we could just share like these just like kind of daily living things, like just very practical,
right?
Like info that we just need, that just simple ways to care. It doesn't have to be that complicated. I think it's way more complicated than it need to be. And it's complicated the fact where we're kind of interfering with our body systems.
Yeah. And kind of in that same vein, anytime that we choose to do something new or do something that's pretty revolutionary, obviously there can be some growing pains and some challenges. So we are so interested to learn from you. Obviously, you've been doing this for a while. Like, what challenges did you face at the beginning? And did you ever have those moments where people looked at you like you were crazy, or you're like, is this going to work? And like, how did you find the courage to push through those moments?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say there was ones in the beginning. I feel like, all of life is, has the many challenges that we can turn into opportunities. Just give that a moment. But really, I feel like, there's always going to be challenges. So I really feel like it's such a common expression, but really like how you're responding, if you can respond to life, meet life rather than react to life, I think that always helps. Right out of the gate, I mean, obviously I remember opening my store back when I was 22 and feel like the night before and getting all the shelves ready, and definitely feeling like, oh my God, like people are going to buy stuff that I originally made in my kitchen. It seems so surreal. But I feel like it's always just been so well received, because I think, there's a beautiful invitation of the textures and the aromas, and then just really delivering things that are effective. I feel like, the products really speak for themselves, which is wonderful.
And I also think it's a testament to you and the energy and the intention that you put into the products, like whether or not that shines through in the advertising or the marketing, like the product packaging, but also just the energy that people can feel when they connect with you and like see your stuff and all of that, like that. I think we don't think about that enough in the business world, but that subtle energy actually carries a big part in like how things are received. So I think that's really beautiful. And can you think of a success or maybe just a moment that you've been most proud of yourself or most proud of the business?
Well, I think we did really, really well. Like in 2013, when we lost everything to a fire, like every single item and business material that we own, personal and business. And just, it was a real moment of obviously stress and fear and everything, but really learning like the clarity and the agility of what we created, even though we have like on one level a very lovely, but yet complex, because I love working with over 300 raw materials. And so there is a finesse complexity there, but really we were so agile, and I'm so proud of the team, and just even how we dealt with it as a family. It just was pretty good, pretty challenging, but we did it.
Yeah.
Wow, I remember hearing that on another podcast. You were talking about that. I'm curious from kind of like the spiritual standpoint, did you feel like there was a need to clear out anything that you were maybe unaware of at the time with your business?
No, I didn't get that at all. But it is funny because in my life, I always do finish big cleans with like a little bit of a bonfire, or like if I had a fire in a rental and just like, oh, my university degree, I don't need it. Those essays I wrote, and I'll just burn things.
That's amazing.
Or, you only have to keep receipts for 7 years. It's like, let's just do that. So I laugh because to tell my younger fire burning self, don't worry, it'll all get cleared out. We wouldn't have that paperwork at some point anyway. So there's that, but it just felt like, there's a lot of lessons in it, but I certainly didn't feel like it was a lesson. But you definitely get initiated into some kind of fire, right? And just as in a challenge, and then you rise to that occasion and just hope for the best.
Being such a pioneer in this industry, like I really see Living Libations as, just being the pioneer in so many ways, and setting that precedent. I'm sure you've seen beauty evolve so much, at least like the natural beauty world over these past 20 years. And I'm just curious to see like what has been some of the greatest changes you've noticed.
Yeah, it is interesting because I started, I had my store in 1992, and I felt like this really needs to be made. But then I was just really focused for a long time, and I just kept in my own lane and stuff. But then, there's so much, it seems, in the past 10 years has grown with, I guess, independent beauty and like cottage industry. And I think it's so fantastic. And I have seen a lot of change. And it's funny too, because I get sort of this industry newsletter that I guess like, the L'Oreal execs would get too. And it's hilarious to see all the microbiome seminars and webinars and products coming out to make sure it's all microbiome friendly. And that just makes me laugh because Renegade Beauty goes deeply, deeply into that. So it's interesting to see that branch of the beauty industry get serious about the microbiome. Might be an uphill battle with the ingredients that they're using, but that's just neat that they're thinking about it. And then, just seeing this proliferate. There's just so many women just like, just taking care of their own little niche sort of neighborhood of skincare and stuff. And that's really cool. And I've seen a lot with green beauty, and a lot in the green beauty washing for sure is stronger than ever, but
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about, that was something that I was so surprised in when I got my first shipping of Living Libations, was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything is wrapped in biodegradable paper, and like even like the tape, I was just like blown away. Like I've never seen that far of intentionality in a brand. How did you like find all those materials?
Oh, that's really cool. Well, I think, one thing, we definitely have it down with our ingredients and always have, and there's a purity there. And of course, with packaging, we're not manufacturing. We don't have a whole place that makes bottles. So we've got to work with what's available, obviously glass and all of that. And sorry, just say,
where did you find
the packing material? And so even though, obviously there's going to be plastic caps or different parts. I wish everything could be glass and we could send it to everybody in canoes. But for sure we could compromise. So we're just trying to go, okay, where is this area not perfect? What else can we bring to it? And then, through our also innovative and caring team, that also don't want to see these things in the environment, then we're able to keep progressing and beautifying. And even our building, it's the only building like it in Canada, well, probably kind of the world, but we really use a lot of innovative environmental stuff. For example, our heat is so efficient, and our wind, like we really mapped out our passive solar and the wall. We had our plans sent to Europe so that they could be like really so that the building would be in the exact right spot for the sun, and then only a certain percentage of windows on the north, and blah blah. Anyway, we're in Canada and we can turn off our heat in February.
No way.
That the building is that efficient. So wherever we can, we sew it through, and then wherever we see areas for fixing something, we hope that we'll come up with a solution, or that the planet will.
That's
so
incredible.
I'm working on hopefully creating some squeezable packaging that is not made out of plastic. That's been a few years, and it might be a few more years still. Working on for a few years on a beautiful mascara that should be the cleanest that the planet's ever had yet.
Oh my gosh,
and
I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, that should for sure by spring, by March 22. I say that now, but it's looking pretty good.
That's incredible.
Oh my gosh,
and
my dream.
that actually kind of answered the next question, which is
fun.
What aspect of Living Libations are you most passionate about? So I'm assuming it's maybe some of those projects.
Well, I love creating a new product. I love the research and education and write. I love writing the books and stuff. Not that you're going to write a book every day. And I love sharing and having conversations and stuff as well. And I love all the raw materials and then bringing new ones in. Or like we've got 7 beautiful frankincense that we offer, but we've got 2 more coming. We have the beautiful Sarada frankincense too, which is the Ayurvedic frankincense from India. And we've got 2 more. So then that was a whole exciting world, because I got to, then I was like, I've got to take a deep dive into all of our frankincenses. We've got this new beautiful, it's called the King of All Frankincenses, and it's free Rihanna frankincense. But check this out. There's another frankincense that's on its way, and it's never really been out in the world before. Even though it's an ancient frankincense, nobody identified it as a separate one.
Wow.
And now there's a new old frankincense. It's called Frankincense Occulta, because it's been hiding in plain sight since the ancient times. And it smells like so atmospheric, almost like petrichor. It is so, it's like you can tell there's a frankincense in there, but it's totally different. And then what we're seeing through the phytochemical analysis is that it contains these methyl esters, which are part of its phytochemical makeup, but they've never been seen in plants before. These methyl esters have only been seen in spiderweb silks and millipedes. Wow. And now it's in this plant oil. And it really protected the plant. Seems to protect those creatures from rain and stuff. And that's what it seems to be doing in the plant. So its skincare applications seem phenomenal. But so then there's just and then I can take that frankincense and then turn it into so many products. So there's just the joy of the raw material, just its essence. And then there's the 1,000 options that can come with all those plants.
That's so cool. Endless. So wait, is this actually an old plant that's now discovered, or do we think that the plant has evolved to maybe create a use that we now need in the modern world?
That's a good question. No, it looks like it's been there all along. But wow. Sometimes maybe the resin was part of a Cartieri frankincense gathering, or part of this Sacra frankincense, which is the different Latin names. But interestingly too, is though the frankincense, the Boswellia Cartieri and the Boswellia Sacra, they through different times in our modern history has oscillated between is it the same plant? Is it a different plant? No, they're different. They're the same. They are totally different. But I feel like it was the occulta that was in there kind of messing some of the readings up.
That's so fascinating. It's so fun that this is even though the planet is, so old, that we can still discover new things.
There's still new uses for them.
Yeah. And always stuff to create out of them. And it's amazing to just hear your passion over it, and to be able to have such reverence for all the things that you use, and then be able to put it in a product that can be so beneficial for the planet and also the people. And I think that's just an incredible skill set. So it's amazing. And I've
it's super fun. And I think also as like things are also going extinct, that yes, there's more to be discovered. It's not, right. The story isn't over, folks. The planet's not over. It's alive. We're alive. Let's go.
Yes. I'm just curious. One final question for me. If you heard about human design, if you know what your human design type is?
Oh yeah. I think I'm a manifestor generator.
I was going to guess that.
I did have a friend.
What I am.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't gone too much into it though.
It's basically, we just get excited about doing all of the things and like creating and bringing things to life. And the way you were talking, I was like, oh, she sounds like me. That's my design.
That's fun.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Nadine, this has just been such a fun conversation. And if there's anything that you want to share that's coming up new with the brand, you gave us some teasers, but if there's anything that's coming up in 2021 or for the holidays, please do share, because I know listeners will be very excited to hear about it.
Well, actually, yeah, there's definitely, we have a quite a lovely collection of about 12 essential oils that are coming out. And I think some people would never have heard of some of them. Or it's like, now we've got an Andean myrtle, which is just so lovely and quite different than like the Mediterranean myrtle. And then we've got these die-dye flowers, which are coming out, which is like a neroli blossom. So there's the oils. We've got our beautiful sea buckthorn Beskin Ever, which many people know is now coming out also as a cleansing balm.
Ooh.
So that's going to be really beautiful and juicy. And then, yeah, the mascara is coming out, and an eyeliner a couple months after the mascara.
Oh my God, I'm in heaven. I have your sea buckthorn Beskin Ever, and I love it. That's what I use sometimes if I like go out and soak up the sun. I swear, like, literally the most golden tan. And I'm Italian, so I guess I had like more of that within me, but I never before in my life have been this tan because of that. And I love your toothpaste is just the best.
I don't know if you tried the triple mint. We love all our toothpaste, but this just in the summer we launched the triple mint paste, and that has this very special mineral called nanohydroxyapatite, which is what teeth are made out of. And about 40 years ago, this mineral ingredient was deemed the toothpaste, like what astronauts need to not lose bone density. So it was shown that this prevents the loss of, the bone density of the teeth. But it's only ever been it's only in about 3 or 4 toothpastes on the planet, and those ingredients we're not so excited about. So now we get that beautiful mineral in our beautiful toothpaste, and I think you will love it. And it's really good for whitening, evens out. And you can even do like masks with it. We sell little silicone trays. You can put it in and you can just kind of let it soak into your teeth for a bit as well as just normal brushing.
I will definitely have to try that.
I'm putting in an order. And also when you come out with the mascara, I've been looking for that for so long. So I'm so happy.
Have I. Also, check out, I normally just do interviews, but there is a beautiful extract that's just become available to people. So in the past year, and it's from a wheat germ. And it is so phenomenal for autophagy, mitophagy, and lipophagy, which are cellular cleanup, mitochondria cleanup, and basically taking your white fat through and turning it into very happy brown fat. It's very good for thermogenesis in the body. That's just the real deep work it's doing under the hood. The side effects are shiny hair in the growth phase, longer eyelashes, smooth skin, melasma fading, freckles fading, because it really cleans up the whole melanocyte layer. Anyway, I encourage you all to just listen to that interview, and I have it on our website. You just look up Living Libations plus spermidine. That's the name of so spermidine is a molecule that's in every living thing on the planet, and it's in all food. Obviously it's going to be more in some food, but you can't get enough to kind of get it in you for this longevity. And it takes care of 6 of the 9 biomarkers of aging, and studies will come out in about a year or so that will really show it takes care of really 9 out of 9 of the hallmarks of aging. You just take 3
Wow.
capsules
Wow.
a day. And I just, if you want to also know what I'm really excited about, that is it, because I feel like it's we don't make it, we don't sell it. It's now my new best friend's company, a phenomenal woman named Leslie, who I interview. And that is just so easy to take, and really it does what it says. Because I feel like I've, had all those beautiful herbs and plants and vitamins and magnesium to do all that stuff, but I've never seen anything. And all the people around, I mean, the men, their hair is thick if they're in their 50s, 60s, male pattern baldness is going. My eyelashes have never been. I'm so excited to put my first time ever put my new mascara on today, like the one that we made, because the samples just came in. And then I've got my lashes that have been just growing on the spermidine. So I got together, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Like, my lashes have never been longer
Oh my gosh.
in my life. I mean, without mascara. And then I got to put on that great mascara on top. It was so fun. And that's just the side effects.
That's amazing. Hey,
yeah. And we're going to be making creams with that as well. So we've got some creams and toothpaste coming out with the spermidine in it.
That's so exciting. I'm getting married next year and I want all of those things, longer hair, longer eyelashes.
Oh, so. You just, within a couple of weeks, you'll be like, what? I do recommend 3 bottles to start. So you really know you have, like, I think probably about a bottle a month. And then write me and tell me, like, oh, I will. God, you will.
I will. I'm excited to try this. And all of the things, honestly.
I just feel like libations and that beautiful plant are like a match made in heaven. And really, if we think about the wheat, which has obviously been so maligned, and it really seems like this extract seems fine for maybe not celiacs, but definitely I haven't eaten gluten in like 10 years and I'm fine with it. And so is everybody else. And it's had the fats removed, so it's not going to go rancid. And it's a whole spectrum extraction. So you're going to get these other micro things that go with it that you'll hear about in the interview. But so phenomenal. Don't wait. Get it. It's really good. And I have nothing to do with that company, but I'm just really here to say, like, we have not had this before and we have it now. Like, literally, like, melasma, hyperpigmentation patches on people's faces just going. And people try lasers and harsh, we have Doodab and Soothsayer, 2 beautiful products that literally take away people's hyperpigmentation. Now, for some, it might be 80%. For some people, it's 100%. And we have that. But the thing is, the spermidine, literally, you're not even looking at a spot. It's just your whole, wherever it is in your body. Because it's like Pac-Man. It's cellular cleanup.
Wow.
So.
That's so cool. I love all of the new things that are coming and that are here.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Nadine, for coming on the show. We're super excited to release this. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.